One of the most absolutely important things that you need to do to get through the class is get the notation that we'll be using for the different terms and the different variables down. It's absolutely essential that you learn this language of statistics. That being said, in statistics, we sometimes intermix different symbols and use them in exactly the same way, and I will use slightly different symbols at times than your textbook will. But the first and most important thing that you need to know is we're going to break these down into two categories. In statistics, we're dealing with samples and we're dealing with populations. In some instances, those symbols are exactly the same. So the first symbol that you'll need to know and learn is this is going to be uppercase sigma. It looks like kind of a squiggly E. For both sample and population, it is sigma, and it means sum of the values that you're dealing with. Typically, we'll be dealing with an X distribution or a distribution of X values. That distribution could be different things. We'll get there down the road. The next one that's very important is X bar, or in some textbooks, M. This just means the mean or the average of a sample. I will be using X bar all the time. Your book uses X bar. However, that's very difficult to do in email or in word processing programs. So if you email me and use capital M, I will know that you are referring to the mean for a sample. However, mean or average for a population is annotated by the symbol mu. It's basically a U with an extra tail on the other side of it. I believe that that symbol is also available to you in the symbols in MS Word. You can find that under symbols. Little n is the number of observations for a sample. Capital N is the number of observations for a population. We also now get down to some more specifics, which are going to become very important later. Your textbook, off the top of my head, I don't remember, but we will talk about it later. For a sample, historically, many of us use lowercase s sub x for a sample standard deviation. If I square the standard deviation, then that becomes known as variance. You will learn what all these terms are down the road. For now, it's just a good idea to memorize them, so as soon as you see lowercase x with a subscript x, lowercase s with a subscript x, you should immediately think to yourself standard deviation, whereas if you say the same thing but squared, you should be thinking to yourself variance. For population, we have the same measures, but we use different notations for it. In this case, this is lowercase sigma. Basically, it's an O with a little squiggly on top, or a hat if you want to go that way. Again, if you square standard deviation, you get the variance. This is the one that may cause some problems, and very much so. I don't like the way your book does it. The next term that we use is what I have is just written standard error. More technically, it's known as standard error of the mean. Your textbook just uses capital SEM to indicate standard error of the mean. I don't like that because it doesn't differentiate between if it's a population standard error of the mean or a sample standard error of the mean, and there are times where that is very important. So if you'll notice, I will use and follow the same notation that I have. Standard deviation is lowercase s subscript x, but when I go to standard error, it's lowercase s subscript x bar. That is the standard error of the mean for a sample, and it is consistent with the other indicators of variance and distribution. Population, again, you'll see the same pattern. I've got sigma subscript x. For standard error of the mean, I'm going to have lowercase sigma subscript x bar. So that will indicate whether or not it's standard error for population or standard error for a sample. Remember again, your textbook uses uppercase SEM to indicate standard error of the mean, but it does not differentiate between sample and population, and there are times where that will be important. You can use this in emails to me. Just please indicate when necessary if you were talking about the standard error of the mean for a population or a sample. Just put that in parentheses so I know what's going on.